um, I think I owe you as well as the viewers an apology. Last 4 weeks I break agide. I felt very sick and therefore I could not really bring myself to have this kind of conversations. So sorry to you, sorry to the audience as well. I think we stopped last time at an interesting point where you established epistemology and also explained why that needs to be done first. But also explained that was very important. So, because in many cases I find they trade as subjects, subject one, epistemology, subject two, ontology. The connect and the sequence is very important, which you really, in my view, you laid out very, very well. So you started the ontology. So what I would request you is that probably this today's session, for the sake of continuity of your thought, as well as my inability to talk for a long time, what I would request is that let's go on to lecture mode today, which normally I don't like. But today I would request you to go on lecture mode and talk for about 40 minutes your thought, your positioning of Madhva ontology as well as Srimad Acharya. And then all the debate and question I'll reserve for next time.
Sri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om. Narasimha Akhilajnana Matadvanta Divakarah Jayat Amita Sajnana Sukashikti Payonidhi Abhramam Bhangarahitam Ajadam Vimalam Sada Anandatirthamakulam Bhaje Tapatrayapaham Apadamaudi Gurunam Akritim Smaret Tena Vignaha Pranashyanti Siddhyanti Manorathaha Sri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om. So last where we left was, as you said, right? We basically talked about the ontology. Let me share my screen. I think once I do that, we can continue from there. I may also have a little bit of cough in the middle. I've been speaking quite a bit today, and even my cough has not gone away. My screen is visible now, right? Is my screen visible? I guess so. Okay, yeah, I know that you are on mute. So this is where we left. We said that whatever ontology that we do, there are certain things that are given in the experience which is accepted by Sakshi as valid forever, and that is it is non-negotiable, or as we put it in our terms, right? Or it is non-controvertible. It is always to be there, and so consciousness about its own self-referencing or self-awareness, the awareness of one's own feelings, or even limitations like ignorance, the fact that we do not have discontinuous bliss and things like that. Whatever ontology we come up with, whatever philosophy we come up with, whether it is based on agama, whatever it is, agama and all those things are in fact secondary. This is the most primary thing. It cannot override, or it cannot violate any of these things which are accepted by Sakshi as valid after after having so many experiences and after validating them, and after validating them, after even searching for any flaws therein, Sakshi has accepted this. That is why we all have the same universal experience. So having said that, we talked about the ontology that Acharya Madhva posits based on what is given in the Agama. So he has written two granthas, it is better to call them two tracts, wherein he has focused only on the ontology. He deals with the subject in other places also. Okay, one is Tattva Sankhyanam, another one is Tattva Viveka. Tattva Viveka is an extract of another grantha called Tattva Viveka, which is a Pancharatra grantha. And Tattva Sankhyana is his own, paraphrasing of his ontology. And that also, some people say, is another extract from another grantha called Tattva Sankhyana, according to some manuscripts. That's what Bannanji Govindacharya ji claims. But that is a more an academic point of view. So we looked at Swatantram Paratantram cha Prameyam Vividham Matam Swatantro Bhagavan Vishnu Nirdosha Akhila Sadgunaha. So this is the fundamental Dvaita, so to speak, that there are two tattvas, one which is Swatantra Tattva and Paratantra or Aswatantra Tattva. He calls this thing as Tattvam in Tattva Sankhya. Swatantram Aswatantram Chad Vividham Tattvamishyate Swatantro Bhagavan Vishnuhu Bhava Bhava Dvidhe Tarat. That is the shloka in Tattva Sankhya. You are able to see my screen, right? Yeah. Sorry, I remember now. So in both these places, the fundamental this thing is that when you look at reality, right? Tattva means real. Anaropitam Tattvam. Okay, anything that is not superimposed is Tattva. Anything that is abadhitam, abadhyam is real. We share this abadhyam criteria with Advaitins, in fact. Okay, but they also say that anything that is abadhya is Tattva. And we also say the same thing. But the only thing is that there, the Advaitin understanding is that all that we experience now, right, uh, will be sublated or will be corrected to Brahmajnana later at the when we get Brahmajnana. And I mean, I know there are finer details over there, but so according to them, this world, etc., is not Tattva. For us, all of this is also Tattva, and things like the snake, which is superimposed on the rope, is atattva, is unreal because it is superimposed. So anaropitam tattvam, and it is anyway, it is badhita also. Therefore, it is real. This also brings us to an important point of view that what do you call what is the difference between real and unreal, or how do you distinguish between an illusory experience versus a real experience? So the answer there is an illusory experience as correction. Okay, anyatha vijnatasya samyak vijnanam. This is the definition of correction given in Anuvyakhyana. So whatever was differently known gets corrected. Okay, so the fact of correction is what determines what is an illusion and what is not an illusion. If there is no correction, it is not an illusion. If there is a correction, then it was an illusion. So this answers our other questions around what do you call, how do you know this is not a simulation, this entire world, right? Just like the Roger Penrose, this one, right? You put some electric nodes on some person's brain, and that person was able to experience lots of things, right? I mean, I am in beach and I'm having the cool breeze kind of thing. How do you know you are not in that kind of simulation? Because there is no corrective knowledge. How do you know you are not in another person's dream? Because there is no corrective knowledge. How do you know there won't be in future? That is a question that people will have. And for that, how do you know there will be or there will not be? So that is what we call as bhavi badhaka shanka. The doubt that something may correct you in future. That we say is apramanika. It is invalid because there is equal chance or whatever it is that may not happen. You need to have a pramana to say that such a bhavi badha will happen. Otherwise, your shanka is without a base. So for us even to doubt something, you need to have a basis for doubting that. And there is no basis to doubt that the world will be seen as always, it is always non-existing at the time of any time. In fact, the Paramatma sees, the Lord Vishnu, who is the creator, he sees this world as it stands in its full reality. This is what the Ishavasya Upanishad says. Yata tathyato vyadadhat arthan. He created these objects as they truly are. Okay, the plural is also there. And he sees them that way. He does not see, a magician cannot see the illusion that he is bringing forth in front of his audience. On the other hand, Paramatma Krishna sees that thing. Therefore, this world is real. So therefore, whatever we are seeing here is real. In fact,
Can I have a question?
Yeah, sure.
So, sorry, I could not contain myself because very important point you mentioned. The postulate that magician does not see an illusion is a very powerful argument to support contrast. I agree. However, on what basis you can make a claim that Vishnu does not see the illusion?
Agama. Yatha tatyato arthan vyadadhat. He is clearly seeing this thing, and he also tells this thing in Gita that asuras have some qualities. Okay, they have certain, they take hold of some philosophical tenets. Satyam apratishtham te jagadahur anishwaram aparaspara sambhutam kimanyat kamahitukam. This is the shloka that Paramatma tells Arjuna, that this is, uh, they hold to some tenets, and one of is that this asat, this world is asat, that it is not real. Okay, so he has told this thing, and he also says that many times, I am the one who prakritim avashtabhya, I am the one who pushes prakriti and then creates all this thing, and then everything enters me. There is enough what do you call scriptural statement corpus, scriptural corpus, which tells that he creates this thing truly. And there is one more thing, Vishwam Satyam Maghavan Tanna Mogham, very clear Vedic line. This world that has been given to you, okay, O Indra, it is not, it is real. It says this thing. Okay. Now, so there is, ample evidence that Vishnu sees the world and sees the world as distinct from him and as dependent on him. So therefore, he is Swatantra and the world is anyway the real thing. So the rest of the things, right, the Paratantra and all these things are also established based on Agama and also based on one's own Anubhava. Okay. So before we go into this further, this one, where we had ended last is, why do we need to take any of these things as all these things is acceptable, right? Because it is all acceptable to Advaitins may say this, right? We have this thing about Vyahvarika and Paramarthika. We and some Pratibhasika also. I'm told that at least in my study of Shankaracharya's works, I have not seen him use these terms exactly as they are. But I'm sure that the great people that came after him in that parampara, they basically saw the seeds of these thoughts in his works. So he distinguishes between a state of avidya and vidya. Vidya is when there is only one thing that is seen, and avidya is when multiplicity is seen. Okay, that much is clearly told in his Brahma Sutra Bhashya also. And so basically, all the multiplicity that we see here, whatever we have mentioned in this one, according to the Advaita, is Vyavaharika. It is true, but it is in the realm of avidya. And any logic that you try to put, okay, is all within this realm only. So basically, there is, what do you call you, and that is, and some people have gone to the extent of saying this avidya being avidya, it is so inexplicable. It is so, what do you call, enormous. So, what do you call, so natural that it is impossible to explain, saying and point out saying this is the nature of avidya. Durghatatvam is, and they claim that that is one of its wonderful features. Just like we claim that understanding Vishnu completely is not possible, is Durghata, right? They say the same thing of avidya. Now, so within all that you say, whether it, Taratamya, I'm not sure they others accept, but all whatever you say are explicable in the realm of Vyavaharika. But in Paramarthika, there is only one real. How do we address this issue? So our point is that your distinction between Vyavaharika and Paramarthika itself is without a proof. It is baseless. So we will look at why I'll look at some of those statements here, and we will get into a deeper argument, or more than argument, I would say, in the rest of the ontology. We will just look at this thing because I see many Advaitins or even the beginners, right? They keep claiming that it's all in Vyavaharika and there is no conflict and so on and so forth. But I would request them to take a little deeper view of things and understand why we do not accept that classification of Vyavaharika and Paramarthika itself. So the nature of the most fundamental precept because of which all this Vyahvarika, Paramarthika is taken is because of what you see here in this Arthapatti. Satchet na badhyeta, asatchet na pratiyeta. Okay. So, and this is also, so this second part, right? Asatchet na pratiyeta. I will come to that. Okay. Satchet means if it were sat, there is never a sublation. Okay. There is never a correction. For example, the rope, the snake gets sublated. Okay. Therefore, it is not sat. Okay. Asat chet na pratiyeta. If it were asat, if it were unreal, okay, if it were what do you call non-existing, it would have never been comprehended. It would have never been apprehended. So the logic, I am sure there are different examples given there. There are different what do you call illustrations made to explain this point. We will come to them, but my point is that this is the fundamental rule here, and based on this, so now that the rope or the snake, or for that matter the entire world is going to get Baada and is also apprehended. It is an object of cognition, which means that is the meaning of na pratiyata. It cannot be apprehended means it is not an object of asat, cannot be an object of object of any cognition. Sorry. So because of these two rules, the world conflicts or contradicts both those situations. There is Baadha and then there is Pratiti. Therefore, it is Sadasad Vilakshana. It is different from Sat, it is different from Asat. So while most of the rest of the world assumes that there are only two state reality, either it is real or unreal, that is not the case. There is real, there is unreal, and then there is Anirvachaniya, Sadasad Vilakshanya, Mithya, all these things are there. This is the theory in which and this Mithya is what is called as Vyahvarika also. Okay. So, and Vyahvarika Sat means, it is consider it real for now. Okay. But later it will get corrected kind of thing. For now or empirically, and I have seen many translations of that. I am not sure if all those translations actually capture the sense that Advaitins want to communicate. Okay. If you can correct me on that, I will be grateful. But I am not too sure if any of them communicate whatever then Advaitin wants to clarify over there. Of course, our point is that whatever you want to clarify is same as Asat. Okay. So, but anyway, so Acharya says this is from his Vishnu Tattva Nirnaya. You are saying it is different from Asat. He first says there is nothing, like there is no evidence, there is no pramana for Sarasat Vailakshanya, which means that this is different from Sat and different from Asat at the same time. In Nyayamrita, if you go, he gives different definitions. In fact, he breaks this thing down further, saying that what do you mean by Sarasat Vailakshana? It is a compound word. It is a samasta pada. So there are different ways of splitting that thing. He considers all the plausible ones and shows that none of them stand scrutiny. And then of course, Madhusudan Saraswati comes and tries to justify, and then back and forth has happened there. But this is essentially the starting point for that conflict. So Acharya says that there is no evidence for Sarasad Vailakshanya. And Asataha Khyati Ayogat iti Vadataha. So people who say, Asat Chetna Pratiyeta. If it were Asat, it will never be an object of cognition. How did you, what do you call, do you have the knowledge of Asat when you say that, or don't you have it? Okay. So he asked this question. If you have that knowledge, okay, if you do not have that knowledge of Asat, you cannot reject it. So for example, can I reject, what do you call, some theory of, how salts and acids or acids and bases react together? I do not know anything about that. How can I reject it? I cannot reject it. So for me to reject something, I need to apprehend that, and then I can say, no, that's not how it works, or that is not real. So I need to cognize, I need to be able to cognize Asat. I need to have knowledge of Asat before I say it is not possible. And If the knowledge is there, then you're self-defeating. Moreover, how are you saying it is different from asat when you do not know what asat is? Nacha asato vailaksham pratitim vina jnayate. Okay, and then this is the next point, which is very, very important. You claim that this snake, this shuktika, this what do you call the seashell, right? That is seen as silver during an illusion, and you claim that that silver is sadasad vilakshana. Okay, because it has two properties: one, correctability, or whatever you can call it. The scope for correction exists, and the second property that that particular rajata has, that particular silver has, is that it is perceived, it is perceptible. So these two qualities are what qualifies, or what gives you the argument that that particular silver is sadasad vilakshana. He says that is not the case. The moment the correction happens, correct? The moment the correction happens, what is the nature of that correction? What is the judgment that you pronounce? You will say that whatever silver I perceived was unreal, it was false. Do you say that, or do you say, you know what, whatever I perceived was, I perceived it as real, but it is actually sadasad vilakshana? Nobody says that. Okay, so he goes from this one. So he says you basically put your theory based on the facts, not the other way around. So the fact is that the corrective experience is I saw or I perceived an unreal object then. In fact, what Acharya says in the last line is that when an unreal is seen as real, or when a non-existing is seen as existing, or when an existing is seen as non-existing, this change in the difference in what the object is and how it was perceived, that difference is what we call as bhranti. That is the fundamental characteristic or lakshana of bhranti. Therefore, asat is indeed seen, is indeed perceived, is indeed cognized in illusions. So this is where I think Dvaita is markedly different from the other schools of thought, even the realistic schools of thought.
Can I ask a question here?
Yeah, sure.
I think it's a good argument. I see it here saying that you want to call that experience as momentary experience of Bhranti. That is a good argument based on the premise post haste a posteriori, the mistaken notion of silver is corrected. That on that basis, you want to call it as a Bhranti. It's a very good thing. But my understanding, my position is that Advaitins seem to be talking about the experience during the experience time, not a posteriori. Sure. At the point of seeing silver, at that very moment, there is no correction or whatever. No. So how do you explain that experience? That's no what as a Sadashat Lakshana.
Sure, no problem.
Later.
So that also is, even when you consider, so there are 2 points in time, let's say, okay, during the illusion and after post the illusion. Post illusion point, very clearly you are able to make out that it was unreal asat. It was asat. The silver was asat. Anyway, I mean, I'll come to your point little later, but I want to highlight the fact that Acharya is using this corrective thing to point out that that asat cannot be cognized is itself false. That dictum, that tenet on which the rest of the sadasad vilakshana, mithya, maya, whatever is told, that precept is wrong looking at the corrective thing. And if you consider during the illusion part also, the observer is seeing that as real. He is not seeing that as sadasad vilakshana. If he sees that as sadasad vilakshana, there is no bhranti. If he sees that rajata as sadasad vilakshana, there is no bhranti. The Bhranti is because he's seeing that as Sat. Did even Advaitins also accept, by the way.
Correct.
That fact, that's why you call that Pratibhasika Sat. And if you remember, we had talked about this previously also. Do you assign a reality status based on just momentary, perception as real, momentary perception, or do you analyze and do you see for check for corrections and then come to a point of conclusion saying that okay, it was real or unreal?
Right.
So Advaitins take the first route, we take the second route. We basically say that reality is something that you analyze and then come to a conclusion on. When you say analyze, I'm talking about pariksha. You go lift it, check it out, and things like that. And going back in our epistemology, only if Sakshi is not able to accept that thing, if the Manas has, either the Manas has given that, okay, this is real, this is silver, or Sakshi has taken that, okay, this is silver, fine, but is it really silver? After Pariksha, I come to the conclusion that, it is not, silver, but a seashell. So anyway, the point is that in either of these experiences, pre or during illusion and post illusion, the observer thinks of the Rajata, the observed silver, as once in the first part as real and in the second part as unreal. There is no different from real or unreal in either of these cases. And what Acharya is saying is that the corrective knowledge, cognition, is a proof that Asat cannot be cognized is a wrong tenet to hold. There is one more important point. Okay, this is there is a reason why not just Advaitins, even other schools of thought hold on to this theory. For them, see, take the simple logic, right? The pot, there is Asat pot here, let's say. It does not exist between me and the laptop. How do I figure this thing out? I mean, why is it available to me by pratyaksha or is it available to me using some other logic? If you say pratyaksha, the problem is that your indriya needs to have sannikarsha. The indriya needs to have contact. But what is it having contact with? It is having a contact with the laptop. It is not having a contact with Asat. Therefore, Asat, like an abhava padartha, okay, an Asat padartha like Shashavishana, which is hare's horns, or a son of a barren woman, which is Vandhyaputra, they are Asat. There is no contact possible. The Indriya cannot touch it. There is no contact possible, because of which you cannot have its knowledge. Okay, I mean, this is to start with. There are better reasons given, but all of that is wrong, because in case of an illusion, Asat is indeed cognized. The point that Asat cannot be cognized is accepted even by the Nyaya school, unfortunately. The Nyaya school is a realistic school. He believes in Bheda, he believes in logic, and he believes in Ishvara and all those things. Yet, he falls for this particular issue. Asat chet na pratiyata. He also accepts that. And that's why he says that whatever Rajata was there, it is true elsewhere. How should it matter here? I mean, there is a larger argument given for that also. But eventually, the point is that its reality elsewhere is inconsequential here. It doesn't matter. And the Buddhist also has a different theory of illusion, right? They say that this Rajat, this silver, is there in your mind. You are superimposing your mind's Rajata on here. Okay, so the Rajata is real for that reason. All of them have a problem with accepting that Asat cannot be apprehended. And so I'll give you one more slide on this one. This is very important. Okay, you take whatever you call this thing, right? I'll tell you the basic idea here. In fact, we can stop after this one and go to the Advaitha ontology after this. Okay. See, you are basically saying Asat it cannot be an object of cognition. Agreed. We will evaluate that thing further. According to you as in, any of these other theories, right? The Rajata had a particular status, okay, during the illusion. And I mean, for example, it is perceived as Sadasad Vilakshana itself. Let's accept that. Okay, for the time being. And later you say, no, 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 it is Pratibhasika. It was never there. Okay. We are looking at, I mean, even purely from the Advaitin's point of view. Earlier, during the illusion, it was seen as Vyavaharika. Post illusion, it is seen as Pratibhasika. Okay. This is how an Advaitin would see it. Now look at this one. This particular Vyavaharika, whatever was seen during this thing, what is the status of that Vyavaharikatva, that Vyavaharika-ness? It is Asat only. It is not that Vyavaharika is also Vyavaharika. Then there is no illusion. That Vyavaharikatva is not seen. It is not there. Therefore, the silver's Vyavaharikatva, the Vyavaharika-ness, is non-existent at that time. Okay? Yet it is perceived. Yet it is perceived as Vyavaharika, which means that Asat can be perceived. So there is a long argument in Vishnu Tattva Nirnaya Tika on this one. And essentially the point is that you cannot, there is no degrees of or layers of reality. Okay? Either something is real or unreal. And within the real, the topmost thing is Vishnu. He is Swatantra.
Yeah. I have a question here.
Yeah. I will just quickly switch to another set of slides so that we can continue with the ontology. Or if you want, we can do this thing in the next week. Yeah, please go ahead with your question.
Yeah, this question is important, I think, because very contextual right now.
Sure.
See, the argument seems to be because the imagined silver is negated post haste. That material experience is Bhranti, is the argument, right? You cannot call it as Sadasat Vilakshanam because it is negated, it is Bhranti.
No. The point is, what is the content of that corrective knowledge? What is the nature of that judgment? The nature of the judgment is whatever I saw was unreal, or rather I saw an unreal silver. I saw a false silver. I mistook something as silver.
Right.
All of them have an element of unreal thing, not an element. They are referring to an unreal object. Okay. Yeah. They refer not just to an unreal object, they refer to a cognition of an unreal object.
Right.
Okay. So the nature of what you are going is the next step. What is the definition of Bhranti? Cognition of unreal as real, or vice versa, real as unreal. Okay. This is Bhranti. That is one part. The point that is relevant to us is what is the fact that, you know, an unreal object cannot be cognized, is negated, is wrong, is proven in the very corrective knowledge itself.
Yeah.
I saw an unreal silver. I saw a false silver. Whatever silver I saw is not there, is unreal. That is the nature of the corrective knowledge. Therefore, unreal objects can be cognized and are cognized in illusions.
Yes, that's what I see. There are two elements to it. It seems to be a two-edged weapon, which Acharya is using. One edge cuts the proposition that unreal cannot be cognized. It cuts that argument, right? Now, using this argument, you are extending to argue, and therefore Sadasat Vilakshanam is not a tenable model because this itself is negated. That seems to be one line of argument. And another line of argument is the cognition of silver is negated later. Therefore, that experience is Bhranti, is another way of another argument given. But when I come to the second argument, I have a feeling it's a question of changing the label. You want to call it, somebody wants to call it Sadasat Vilakshanam, you want to call it as Bhranti. But both of you agree there seems to be a grade in between what you can be sure as reality and what is potentially negated later as unreal. And therefore, you're propositioning an in-between layer. It's a question of name, nomenclature change. You want to call it as Bhranti, and they want to call it as Sadasya Vilakshanam. Other than
No,
that, I don't find any difference in these arguments.
there's a lot of difference. There are a lot. The difference is that we are calling it unreal, just like Vandhyaputra, just like Shashavishana. Therefore, this
No,
word.
it cannot
Okay,
be. It cannot
yeah,
be.
why
I'll
not?
tell you why. Because
Hmm.
a Vandhyaputra, a son being born to a man woman, is biologically, physically not possible. On the other hand, two
That is,
similar
even for
people,
that matter, the silverness that you saw there is also not possible.
why? No, not true, because when you're not talking about silver, we are only talking of what looks like a silver.
No, no, 1 minute. So the question, this is actually an important point. So the possibility of an illusion is what you are saying is difference between them. That's what many people will say up to that. Okay, we'll come to that.
I didn't get your question. Can you clarify?
You are saying the son of a barren woman does not even have the possibility of being an object of illusion.
Correct.
On the other hand, the silver or the snake that was seen there has the possibility of being seen in an illusion.
Exactly. To use vector algebra, a son of a barren woman is a null set.
Okay.
On
So
the other
here also
hand,
our point is exactly that. There is no reason to distinguish. Given the right circumstances or given appropriate circumstances, one can have an illusion even about a barren son. Okay. We are talking about case of illusion where people do not have right knowledge. So let's say I get a person who does not understand what Vandhya means. And he thinks that Vandhya is like somebody like Sandhya. It is another word there. I tell him that, this guy is Vandhya Putra. He will, yes, he will say, "To sure, I will talk to him." I mean, we will have a good discussion also. The point is, he has a mistaken notion that Vandhya is another name. But in that mistaken notion, he has accepted the possibility of a Vandhya Putra. Same thing goes with Shashavishana. In fact, one of my friends, he did a very beautiful thing. He solved this debate forever by painting a picture which had hairs and then he put two horns on top of them. And a guy who does not know that hares cannot have horns or the hare horn is an absolutely unreal entity, that person will think that it is okay, maybe this is true. So given the appropriate circumstances, whatever you count as absolutely impossible to be ever perceived can also be perceived. And all of them are possible in illusion. So there is no substantial, or there is actually not substantial, there is no any difference, no qualitative difference between a Shashavishana or a Vandhyaputra and the silver that is seen in an illusion. Okay, with that, this is a larger debate. I think you will have to tell me whether we can go ahead or we can we'll have to go
no,
to
no,
the next.
I think we can stop now. Because it's already 40 minutes. People have requested not to have more than 45 minutes anyway. This is very important point. Hopefully, I request you to explore it deeper next time.
I was planning to actually go to Tattva Sankhya and then explain the other categories and then move forward. Because this, see, I can mention something, but then again it will spiral into the Advaitha, this one. So I use this opportunity to just tell it because people are not aware of the Dvaitic position on this one.
Please continue then. Not an issue, but only I'll leave one thought with you, which you can explore next time. Because
Sure.
one of my personal observation is that in many categories, I find Tattva Vada, what it does is only a label change. Substantively, I don't find any difference. In fact, I even told Uttaradi Swamigalu once, Satyatma Tirtharu, there's a 91% commonality. He was taken aback. He said, we say 98% difference, you are saying 95% commonality, right? So that became a
Right. If you go to the what do you call the characteristics of Asat or Sadasad Vilakshana, in both of them, there are quite some differences there, right? It is, see, for example, they are saying that world is Sadasad Vilakshana, right? We are saying world is Sat. We do not, what you consider as real is Satchetna Badhyeta. We say that the same thing applies here, therefore the world is real. You take Asat is something, Sarasat Vilakshana can be perceived. So anything that is perceived is Sarasat Vilakshana. We say no, that is not the case because it is perceptible and Asat is also perceptible. So we say that we do not have three-state theory. You have two-state theory, we have two-state theory, and you have three-state theory. And it is not just a label change. See, for example, can a Asat Padartha be effective in producing something? Is there Arthakriya Karitva? An Asat Padartha cannot have Arthakriya Karitva in both the systems. But you say it is possible in Sarasat Vilakshana. Since we deny that, and only Sat can have Arthakriya Karitva. You deny Sat to have Arthakriya Karitva except for one place. Okay. And in all the other cases, there is Arthakriya Karitva is there only in Sarasat Vilakshana. We say Arthakriya Karitva is there only in Sat and not there in Asat. So there are many differences, and the repercussions or the implications are also therefore diametrically opposite. I mean, one thing we have to give right is the fact that people, when they were able to very quick to understand these label changes, it is not like only we are the first set of smart people to recognize that, right? I mean, when you go, in fact, Acharya says this thing, I mean, if you even consider the charge that the Advaitha is Prachanna Bauddha or whatever it is, that is the charge we are making there, right? That the labels are different, the concepts are same.
I understand the same label applies to you also is what I'm saying.
I know, agreed. But if you go to the further characteristics, there are differences there. And that's what is not there is our allegation for the Prachanna Bauddha thing. But anyway, coming back, in the further, right, in Anuvyakhana, he makes one important point, whatever, I mean, you can call God by any name. As long as you accept that God is Paripurna and Nirdosha and Swatantra. That is Tadeva Asmakam Ishvaraha. So Namni Vipratipattihi, that is what people say. It is just a whatever you are saying, right? Label a different name, that's all, but it is the same thing. So we cognize that issue, but here that issue is not there. Okay, for this same thing comes, for example, I mean, so what I'm trying to tell is that understanding label changes or name changes is not something new to us, or it's not like we are not smart enough to figure that thing out. That has been there in our system. We figure that thing out, we go deeper, and then we say, okay, what are the characteristics, what are the possibilities of this particular entity, that whatever you are saying is named X, and then you compare that with whatever is Y, whatever is named Y here. Are they same characteristics, behavior, is it same or not same? They say this thing, right? Whatever, if it walks like a duck and yucks like a duck, then it must it must be a duck, right? So we get that thing. And here the idea is that it does not walk like a duck and it does not walk like a duck type. So there is more to it than just the name change. Okay, we will talk next week.
Okay, thank you very much.
Madhvesha Krishnarpamastu.